Welcome to OrbisX, where I speak to industry leaders and topic matter experts about the pursuit of excellence. Now, in this series, we explore the secrets to building a culture of continuous improvement and unlocking your organization's ability to achieve operational excellence. Hello, I'm your host, Paul McCarthy, and today I'm joined by Craig Stewart. Now, Craig is the managing director of Theia, technical consulting firm specializing in dynamic simulation, optimization, and other analytics techniques. Now, he has over 30 years of experience in the space and over 4 years in management consulting with Boston Consulting Group. Recognized as an industry leader in this space, he's worked for several tier one businesses globally to solve their complex business problems. And it's a great pleasure to have you on the call. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
No, real pleasure, mate. Really looking forward to our conversation. I guess maybe to kick things off, Craig, you can maybe share the origin story of Thea, what inspired its creation, what sort of gap it was designed to fill.
Sure. So despite the being just over 2 years old, we've got a pretty rich history. So in 1999, I was a founding partner of the Simulation Group, or TSG as we were known. We built the business over a number of years, servicing mainly mining clients using dynamic simulation to solve really complex problems. In 2019, 20 years later, we became part of Boston Consulting Group. We're in Gamma, which was their data science and analytics leg of the business. When we became part of BCG, a number of our team did a range of different analytics techniques, and we're not necessarily focused on simulation. So to your question on the gap, in removing TSG from the market and with a couple of our competitors also being acquired at the same time or roughly the same time, a gap formed, which meant there were no groups at a sufficient scale to be able to cope with varying client demands. The inspiration to form Theia came from multiple sources. We listened to the market, understood that there was a demand for high quality simulation still to be delivered. We listened to our team of passionate problem solvers, and they wanted to get back to an environment where they could practice their craft as well. And we wanted to do it better than the first time around. I think we all want to improve when we reinvent ourselves, and we learned so much from our time at TSG and our time at BCG that we wanted to combine the best of both to deliver a culture and a client experience that was really impactful.
Fantastic. So, Greg, I mean, in terms of the core philosophy behind Thea's
Mm.
approach to simulation and, as you pointed out, problem solving more generally, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's pretty simple in the sense that our approach is to listen and to understand the key business questions the model needs to answer and design it appropriately. We have a hard to match level of experience in the team combined with broad ranging analytics skills and capabilities to draw from. So it's not just dynamic simulation, but also optimization, machine learning, etc. So we want to find the appropriate tool for the job, in essence. When you combine that with some of the management consulting background some of our team have, and we've acquired from our time at BCG, we've got quite a unique approach for a technical consulting firm. The other approach and philosophy that we've got is to be transparent with all the models we build. We partner with our clients to take them on a journey so they too understand the model, its limitations, how it's best applied. If you are making large capital investments or operational changes, then our clients need to be able to stand in front of the board, hand on heart, and be confident about the decision being proposed. And we also want to put the model in the hands of our clients. This means we're not as sensitive on IP as other businesses, I suppose, but we believe our clients have invested in a decision support tool which can add value well beyond, an individual study.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, I mean, a part of what Thea's promise is helping people gain clarity from complexity, and obviously we live in, a complex business world. So, can you define for us in terms of that clarity from complexity, what that means, and why is that, I guess, so central to your mission as a business?
Yeah, I think it stems from the world that our clients actually live in on a daily basis, and it's one of complexity. One where there are a large array of variables that all interact in different ways at different times to create an environment where the complexity is very high and the decisions are very complex. And the system dynamics of an operation means that those decisions and understanding the impact, both upstream and downstream, is very difficult to capture, be that in a mining operation, a healthcare environment, ports, infrastructure, whatever it happens to be. So, in essence, this complexity is what we capture with dynamic simulation. And being able to capture a holistic view of the system in a digital model means that we can understand where the bottlenecks occur and why. Once we have that clarity, we can then clearly demonstrate what needs to be done and why either it will work or it won't work and what needs to be done to fix it.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously, one of the tools that you use as a business is a virtual sandpit. So there may be some people who aren't familiar with what a virtual sandpit is. So can you perhaps explain how Theia use that, how it helps businesses make better decisions?
Sure. Virtual sandpit is a bit of a reference we use to the fact that we build and deliver digital replication of any operation. This is built up from all the operating rules, historical data, for example, the performance of equipment, be that a truck or a crusher, even a shift roster at an emergency department. Once we have captured all of this information and validated the model, we can then use it to test a wide range of options. This is done digitally and not in the real world, obviously. So there's no impact on the business to test different hypotheses on potential change in the business. We can then evaluate between the options or combine the options and see if one operating rule is better than the other, for example, or whether a combination of those rules brings out and releases the system capacity. We find it makes businesses more experimental, and through the process, they build a wonderful understanding of the impact of change on their system without the real world costs. So, a large component of bringing people on the journey is also visualizing the operation as well through an animation. Um, People we find tend to relate very quickly to the models when they can see their own um, operation on the screen, actually acting out all of the rules. But it's also a really cool verification tool. So it gives us the opportunity to test all the different options digitally without having to spend money in the real world.
Yeah, it makes sense, and so it does give you a fantastic snapshot, I guess, and the opportunity, I assume, to innovate with much greater speed and confidence because you're testing it in this digital environment. So maybe you could walk us through what a typical simulation project looks like from start to finish. What does that journey look like
Sure.
for a customer?
Yeah, it's interesting because our projects range from ongoing partnering with our clients, where we have Theia teams working alongside our clients' teams, through to individual studies. So maybe if we take an individual study as an example, then typically we start with a scoping session or, depending on the requirements, maybe a diagnostic phase. Each of these strive to understand the business requirements first. What will the model be used for, and what questions is it trying to answer? Um, each of these factors define the type of techniques applied and the level of detail required to answer the question. So it gives us the level, the boundaries and the depth of the model required. We also find typically asking a lot of questions, even at this stage, because we've got to ask some dumb questions to actually build up all the operating logic. That in itself quite often realizes some insights into the operation, which is quite unique. So, using a simulation study as an example, once we have this in place, we develop a data, logic, and assumptions document, what we call a DLA, which is like a functional specification for the model. Again, it's about that transparency and making sure everyone understands what's in the model, what's not in the model, etc. It clearly states all of the operating rules, input data, statistics, assumptions, model limitations. And then in parallel, we're typically collecting and analyzing the data required for the model, which also generates a large amount of value in and of itself. We're innovating our model delivery techniques all the time as well. In some cases, we can have a wireframe of an end-to-end model completed in a couple of days, and then we can start fleshing out detail as required to build the model that will answer the business questions. So once we have the right level of detail, we can then verify, validate the model to historical data, to the accuracy we need to make sure that we're answering the business questions at the required level. And again, this is interactive with our client study teams. Once we have results, then these are clearly demonstrated to our clients, and then we can wrap it up in a report. However, as I mentioned before, we hope the model doesn't end up on a shelf at that point. We actively aim for clients to have access to the model moving forwards because they've got, as I said, a decision support tool available to them that's highly valuable.
That's great. Now, I know you've, as a business, you've completed, over 800 simulation projects, which is an enormous amount. So, is there any one of those that sort of stands out to you in terms of whether it's its impact or the level of innovation that it generated?
Yeah, we'd like to think all of our projects have a positive impact, but there's a few interesting ones, I suppose, that come to mind that may be relevant to the audience that might be listening today. One was a greenfields mining project where we're using some new technology in the hard rock mining space in the copper industry, and we were modeling. The modeling actually showed first time round that the throughput required to make it a viable option couldn't be achieved. Um, so we weren't very popular at the time, demonstrating that. But we did identify the key areas which hindered the plant's performance, and the team understood that and redesigned the facility. We remodeled the new flow sheet and showed how robust the solution was. We did a polar sensitivity analysis to make sure it was robust. It was built and achieved nameplate in 9 months, which was a very quick amount of time, and it's still in operation today. Um, to me, this is a good example because the cost of getting such a large investment wrong is phenomenal. And this is where simulation can add real value. Um, Another is in the healthcare space, where we assessed alternative care models for two emergency departments to reduce the burden on the burgeoning healthcare systems, as we're all reading at the moment. While we had about 20 different options, each adding some value, the real value driver and the real impact came when we started to combine the options. We identified three of those 20, which when applied together had a massive impact on the system. So not only was there a capacity release and a cost saving, which is always nice to have, but the potential to impact people's lives, um, and even be part in saving someone's life. That was a massively rewarding experience, those two.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously, many businesses have and do go ahead with these sort of projects without any simulation. But as you're pointing out, if we take that mining example,
Mm,
um, I mean that learning by the end of the process that it wasn't viable would be a very expensive exercise and potentially one that could cripple and stop the whole
mm,
operation going forward. By the time you figure out that you're off track, you don't have the resources to get back on track. So,
absolutely.
so you can see why it would be so valuable to really build out these models. So, in terms of the future of the industry, so where do you see simulation technology heading in, say, the next 5 years? And from a Theia point of view, how are you preparing for that future that you're seeing coming?
Yeah, good question. As you mentioned in the opening, I've been in this space for about 30 years, and I think the current environment we find ourselves in is rapidly accelerating, more so than I've seen in the past. And simulation to me is a critical part of evaluating complex operations. I believe it should be part of most projects that are being evaluated. And while I don't see simulation disappearing, the nature of the studies may change with the advent of some of this new technology coming in. It won't necessarily come from traditional software platforms that we use, but I expect AI and the multitude of options in this space will start to drive a different approach to the consulting methodology. Um, Development of technology and improving our workflows are a constant inside such a curious organization like Theia. We're continuously working on refining our libraries to enable us to build robust models quickly, leveraging software gains to build models from standard inputs, and training our teams across multiple platforms and languages to be adaptable to our project requirements, essentially using the latest and greatest available.
Yeah, well, you mentioned their AI, and obviously AI continues to eke its way into all of our lives more and more. So what sort of role does AI currently play in the work you do, and how do you see that evolving, I guess, in terms of the simulation and consulting space that you operate in?
Yeah, again, good question. It's very relevant to us. AI is already playing a significant role in our business. We're at sort of the forefront of the application, certainly in our space. Um, I've got to pause a little bit there and note that for us, we have an extremely high radar for the moral, ethical, and social implications of AI, and we spend quite a period of time testing and understanding the impact in our own space before we even go near clients with anything in this space. We need to understand it, be clear and transparent with our clients on its application and impact. So we're very strong on that. But all of that said, we are building AI into our workflows to improve productivity where we can show there's a benefit. The uses are far reaching from code building to rapid document generation. And what that does is it allows us to actually spend more time on using the model and getting the insights from the model. So we're more rapid to get to that sort of usage and experimentation phase, which is where we generate the most value. Um, Irrespective, still with AI, we cross-check everything. We do use AI to ensure, check there's no hallucinations, and in short, we know the work that we do is critical to our clients' businesses and it needs to be right. So it's just a constant thing, just checking, making sure we've got it right. But AI is certainly forming a big path of our future operations, absolutely.
So obviously, Thea and Orbis have a partnership, a relationship. So what do you see for clients in engaging either one as the key benefits of working in partnership with the two organisations?
Yeah, it's been a really great journey for us to be working alongside Orbiz, and there is a lovely overlap with Orbiz and Thea, um, which works really well. We're both operations focused. We've got between us decades of experience in our relative fields. Combine that with the industry alignment we've got on a drive to genuinely help our clients achieve the operational excellence they desire. It's really a great match. The combination of our businesses means the client gets more value than the sum of the parts, which is always what we're aiming to achieve, which is really cool. But between all business deep operational understanding and our ability to translate that into the digital space, we can jointly bring the best of both worlds together and deliver impactful studies and insights other groups can't generate. Um, all of that, but they're also really great people to work alongside, really good bunch of people, and that's something that we strive to do is work with people that we want to work with, and Orbeez
Yeah.
is one of those.
Yeah, we all do, right? So, yeah, obviously, Thea prides itself on its independence and collaboration. So, I'm curious, as many leaders will be, that those things of how do they get fostered internally from a cultural point of view for you, as well
Mm.
as with your clients?
It's almost a foundation piece for us around that independence because TSG was founded originally on the requirement of independence. It was our clients who recognized the strategic value of the modeling that we were doing for them and wanted to ensure there was space to evaluate all of the options without any bias being introduced. And so TSG was born based on client requests, effectively. And we carry this through into Theia, with clients really valuing that independence, and honest approach and transparent approach. Um, I mentioned before our transparency. We do see some people approach modeling as a black box. That's sort of where the experts trust us. We do not have that approach at Theia. We feel the model should be clearly understood. And the best way to foster this is then through collaboration. So this is where the collaboration comes in. We've got a very flat structure as well in terms of internal collaboration. You can walk up, tap anyone on the shoulder, say, I've got a problem I need to solve. Let's find a whiteboard and solve that problem. So the culture itself is one of collaboration across the group, and that translates across to the client teams as well. So I really think that everyone in Theia understands the way to deliver real value is through transparency, honesty, and in the study team going on the journey together.
Yeah. It's great to hear. So, I mean, you've been in this game now, Craig, for a long time, over 30 years. You've worked at Boston Consulting. Tell me, in terms of leadership lessons, what have you carried through from your time in these various roles into Thea?
Yeah, leadership's lessons, there've been many over the years. We've made a number of mistakes over the years, as most businesses do, I suppose. The importance for me is deriving some value from those mistakes and let them become experience learning adventures. Um, to me, one of the key lessons is all businesses, and it doesn't matter what industry sector you come from, are in essence people businesses first and foremost. Without a team that are passionate about what they do, having the right environment for them to thrive and be curious, you face an uphill battle, and likely, to me, mediocre performance. But to me, an engaged, active team will not only have a great time, which we spend enough time at work, we need to enjoy what we're doing, but also as a byproduct, I think they generate enormous value for clients when people are in the right headspace.
Yeah. Now you work in a very technical space. So how do you balance sort of the technical excellence? I mean, you talked about there's your clients really rely on your models being very, very accurate. It's not guesswork. But how do you balance that with the human-centered elements of consulting?
It's yeah, an interesting question in that for us, I think pretty much everyone at Thea has been the janitor sweeping the floors, to speak of. And by this, I mean we've got a crew that understand intimately the technical requirements of the area we work in, in a very detailed manner. We also have a number of experience on the management consulting side, as we mentioned before, through BCG, and we feel that sort of combination of experience enables us to move between the technical delivery to understanding our clients' requirements and translating complex outcomes into clear value. So I think it's a combination of all those factors, and probably ties back to the question you asked before around what learnings and having people-centric businesses and understanding that the businesses and the clients we're involved with are people as well, and they need to understand what's going on.
So if you had to describe Thea in a sentence if there's a business leader watching right now, what would you say? How would you describe the business?
Um, Thea helps leaders test the big decisions before they make them. By applying the digital models of real world systems, we can show what will work, what won't, and that enables us to de-risk, and make better decisions.
That's what I would have thought. That's that risk reduction and improved decision making would sound to me to be the two absolute key benefits that people get. If there's one myth that people have about simulation that maybe that you'd love to bust right now, what would that be? Is there any myths that people hold about what this is and what it's supposed to do?
I think there's a lot, and different industry sectors have different myths about it. But one for me is a little bit of not all simulation consultants are created equal. Um, Look, we know the value of simulation, what it can provide, but it's an art form to understand and how to apply it well. There's a balance of experience, technical know-how, pragmatism, and you need to understand the level of detail required to be able to answer the business questions that the clients are asking. And you need to take the clients on that journey. So that's all part of that experiential package, I think. And at Theia, we're more than happy to pass through references from our client base so you can be confident in our ability to deliver a quality outcome that meets the business requirements they're looking for.
Well, Craig, that's fantastic. I think it's a great place to finish up, and for us to pause our conversation. All left for me to say is thank you so much for taking some time out to share your wisdom and share with our audience what Thea does and how they can help them to eliminate the risk and improve their decision making when they've got complex projects ahead of them.
Thanks, Paul. Really appreciate the opportunity and I've enjoyed the discussion.